So I want you to help introduce to the stage. This man is just an amazing, one of the amazing mentors and thought leaders that you're going to hear from today. This is a doctor. His name's CJ Mertz, but he's not just a doctor. He's called Coach CJ. One of the reasons why he's called Coach CJ is he has motivated and inspired literally tens of thousands of doctors all across the globe. He's actually helped open up and train over 16,000 doctors' offices. How many of y'all know that this ain't his first rodeo doing big boy stuff in the health and wellness space? This guy would fill Vegas auditoriums with 10,000 doctors and walk them over fire and do all this kind of stuff. How many of you know that you want to get involved with people that have that kind of fortitude about them, that are ready to disrupt the system? So please welcome to the stage the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Dr. CJ Mertz. Everybody, please.
1, 2, 3, go!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hey, listen, before we get started, I want to take a selfie so my daughters know what their dad's doing. So can you guys move a little bit more to the middle? That would be great. Now, who's excited? Like let's, yeah.
Ready? How did that girl even get in here? Do you see her? She's so... But first, let me take a selfie.
Thank you. Good. Now we can get started. All right. So you're going to need to stand a few times, most likely, just so you can kind of get to know who's around you. There's a few different generations that are here, which is so exciting. So if I say something that's true for you, I just want you to stand up, and then people around you will be able to know, oh, that's cool about him or her. You ready? So you got to play full out. Here's how it goes. Plus, you've been sitting for too long, and how many of you know that sitting's not good for your spine? So, all right. So, number one, if you grew up as a kid, and you had to roll up or roll down the windows in your car, stand up. Yes, I see you. All right, I love that. All right, good. Sit down. Very nice. Okay, if you have a current TikTok account, stand. See what I'm saying? Not necessarily the same people. Good, thank you. If you still have a newspaper subscription, please stand. God bless all 5 of you. That is awesome. I love it. All right, now, if you've ever watched a video of somebody playing a video game, stand. That's what I'm saying. That's a thing. People watch people playing video. If you ever sent a fax, stand. All right. Yep. All right, beautiful. All right, good. Thank you. Okay, just one more. I just wanted to get you kind of standing. If you had a long landline cord in your house, yeah, you already see it. And how many of you took it into the closet to talk to your boyfriend or girlfriend? All right, I now know who's in the house. Good. Thank you. That was pretty much just to loosen up. So I was 10 years old, and I was on a football field, and I got badly hurt, and I wound up in a hospital. Couldn't feel my legs. And my mom was there on a Saturday, and the doctor says, the good news is if we do this procedure right now, your son will get the use of his legs again. He will never play sports. He'll probably have a little wobble in his walk, and his spine will deteriorate, faster than normal. That was the best news that my mom was hearing. And so think about this. I didn't have you stand on this one, but how many of you remember rotary phones? So my mom is in the hospital, and after she hears this horrible news about her son, she goes out to the phone and she calls her chiropractor. I didn't even know what that word was, didn't know she had one. He told her to get whatever MRI, whatever x-ray, whatever she could, meet him at his office. And we did. I remember my mom getting me into a wheelchair and rolling me out of the hospital. How pissed off do you think they were at my mom rolling me? And then, how many of you believe that moms have superpower? How many of you believe that? I didn't know it. I didn't know it until that. My mom's like 5 foot nothing, you know. She picks me up out of that wheelchair, kind of throws me into the white station wagon. I'm like, you know, even though I'm freaking out about my body, I'm like, Mom, that was really cool what you just did. Yes, my mom walks on water. So it turned out that this chiropractor wound up taking his own x-rays. He looked at everything the doctors said, and he said, look, it's as bad as what they said it was, but we won't know unless we try. And this is what he put forward. And so it's a beautiful long story. I'll tell you some other time, but I just want you to know that by the grace of God and by having the right technology and the right people around me, not only was I able to get my legs back, I wound up actually going to college on a full ride to play tennis, which they said I would never be able to do, you know, anything again. And so what I realized was this, though, back to what Eric was saying, who's one of my dearest friends. It was like I was in the mainstream. I was in the mainstream in the hospital. And what was interesting is they never even told me I had an option. Like, why didn't I even know that? Why was I just going to go into a surgery without the doc going, hey, look, you might need this, but you might want to go check this out first. Like, why wasn't that there? Fast forward, I wind up, my mom tells me that when I was driving home from a well visit, getting an adjustment, 6 months later, I'm hopping, skipping, and jumping like it never happened, that I said to my mom, you know, Mom, I just think it would be so cool if I could do this for another boy or girl. Like there was something that God seeded in me, like you should be a doctor someday and you should be able to do that. So I did, and I wound up becoming a chiropractor. Thank you. Because of how I was treated in my life, right? But what was interesting was this. So now I'm this doctor, this chiropractor, but here's what I want you to get. Coming into the health space, how many of you have heard of the term alternative care? So here is this whole group of people that are called mainstream, and then I'm over here in a smaller circle called alternative. I'm an alternative physician, alternative care. What today represents is we're going full strength next to the mainstream medicine. Do you understand that? That's what we're doing. We are no longer alternative care. Biolimitless is how the world's gonna come inside of our ecosystem, and they're gonna at least know that they have choices. Does that sound good to you? Yeah, lots of good choices. Imagine millions of people around the world, tens of millions of people, turning healthcare into a lifestyle. I remember growing up. How many of you remember growing up and literally in your bathroom, there's this thing they call a medicine cabinet. Think about that for just a moment. Like, that's pretty good marketing, right? I mean, they could have called it a supplement cabinet. They could have called it anything else. What happens when people decide that they're going to take their health and turn it into a lifestyle? That's what Jeremy was saying a few minutes ago when Paul Zane Pilsner, who wrote the book, The Wellness Revolution, he said, and he's an economist, right? He's not a doctor, but he said clearly this was his fourth megatrend. He was 3 for 3 in his fourth megatrend. His fourth projection was that wellness would be the next $1 trillion industry. And you have to ask yourself, you know, how is that going to happen? And it's transforming the broken sick care system. People need to understand that you don't have to wait until you're sick to see a doctor. That's going to be a major breakthrough, right? That's going to be a major breakthrough for most people in the world today. Here, today, August 17th, 100 years ago, this dude was born. Most of us probably remember reading about him in school, Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett pushed to make our country a greater place for generations. And if you actually really study this person and who he was, he'll be really inspiring to you. But he lived what you and I now call, and it was almost like where this came from, was the American dream, right? So when you think about what Eric's been talking about for the last few minutes, about how healthcare and wealthcare can truly come together, this is where we came from 100 years ago today. That was really in his heart. Now, 100 years ago, 1924, let's talk about the United States of America. Not that this is limited to the United States of America, but our water and our air was clean. Say yes if you understand that, right? 100 years ago, no problems with our air and our water. Our soil was rich in nutrients. I was talking to a doctor a few months ago, and he has a patient that is in the orange tree orchard business, right? And that was in his family for generations. And this patient that came in to see him, that's in the orange business, growing oranges, he said that one orange that is grown today is equivalent to 33 oranges that were grown like 35, 40 years ago. And so they're describing how the nutrients, how many of you know the soil has changed, right? And that we don't know, I'm not even pointing fingers right now, I'm just simply saying this is what's happening, right? And so really when you think about what's in the nutrients of what we're eating, it's not the same as what Davy Crockett had, for example. In fact, it's probably not even what your grandma had either. So our bodies were also mostly free from toxins in 1924. And how many of you know that in 1924, there were, in fact, I don't think there were any TV stations. I don't think there was Netflix. So how many of you know that there wasn't a lot of like couching? People were up moving. Say yes if you get that, right? Everybody, right? From 60 to 96 years old, everybody was moving. That's what was happening 100 years ago. I read an article recently, and here's what it said. The average person in the United States is in contact with up to 500 toxins a day. Like, that's not your fault, right? Like, that's just what's happening. So I'm talking about like the things that you use for cleaning, those products, carpet, your clothes, getting into your car, going to restaurants and gas stations and just like work, just wherever you go, up to 500 toxins a day. So there's three factors, if you will, that describe stress. Who on planet Earth would you say deals with stress? Answer? Yeah, 7.9 billion of us, right? Stress. Stress comes in three and only three forms. Did you know that? It comes in negative thoughts, toxins, and traumas. Negative thoughts. Negative thoughts. What's that? Fear, worry, doubt, anxiousness, sadness, depression. Stress. Negative thoughts. Toxins. Well, we are introduced to some 500 of them a day. And traumas. Traumas is not just that I was in a car accident or a sports injury like I was. By the way, raise your hand if you have actually ever been in a car that was in an accident. Raise your hand and look around the room. Do you know what the Driver Motor Vehicle Association says in the United States? The average person will be in a car accident every 10 years. So watch this. Keep your hand up. Raise your hand if you've been in a car accident. All right, keep it up if you have been in 2. Look around. If you've been in 3. Right. So those of you that still have your hands up, we're going to let you leave the parking lot first today. Just no bad. Just you get to go first. Today, almost 1/3 of U.S. adults are taking antidepressants. I don't know about you, but that's not okay with me. And we need to do something about that. And Biolimitless has a fantastic solution for this. How many of you know we're heading in the wrong direction? How many of you know that if we don't do anything today, that's going to read a few years from now, 2/3 of the people are on antidepressants. Say yes if you get that, right? Right, so we got to stop that right now. That is not okay. And how many of you know that we're not talking about just adults? How many know that kids are involved in that process right now as well? So as a society, here's the truth. We're overweight, yes? We're undernourished. We're over-medicated. How many of you know we're over-medicated? Unbelievable. We're under nerve supplied, which has caused sympathetic overload, which has left us in absolute fatigue. Think about how many energy drinks people are drinking today. How many coffees and espressos, and that's just till noon. What do you do after noon, you know? We're overwhelmed, we're underactive. You put all that together, and I don't think that adds to that healthy, long, vibrant life that we're talking about. Biolimitless is 180 degrees of all of that. Who wants that life? Who's up for that, right? And then put millions of people into that. Well, that's introducing Biolimitless, the revolution. I want you to know that I started my practice in Sunnyvale, California. I started it in the Silicon Valley before it was the Silicon Valley. I literally saw it grow up around me. There was this little company that started less than a mile from my office. How many people have heard of a company called Apple? Has anybody ever heard of Apple? Some of you have heard of them? So when we're talking about mainstream medicine versus Biolimitless, that parallel system, I want you to see the metaphor here. How many of you get that at one point there was only PC? And then there was Mac. Any Mac users in here? Yeah. So I wanted you to understand something is that metaphorically, we're Mac, we're Apple, right? And so it's not that we're necessarily getting rid of PC, is that we truly believe that there's a parallel system. Say yes if you get that, right? There's another way. We believe it's a better way, a much, much better way. And so my practice was right there in the beginning of all these great companies coming up. Now, I was stuck. I wound up having, at best, an average practice. And so I sought mentors because I truly felt like what I had could really help a lot of people in my town, but I couldn't get out of my own way. I look back now and I realize God sent me 5 mentors in the order that I needed them, and my practice grew in that same office, in that same town. It grew to one of the largest practices in America. Praise God. Yes, the number of people that were just seeing their children, their wives, their spouses, their brothers, their sisters, their moms getting well and staying well without drugs and without surgery. Without drugs and without surgery. How many of you know that if we can do something without drugs and without surgery, that's a better plan, if we can do it that way, right? Not knocking that, just saying if we could do it without that, why wouldn't we, right? So all of a sudden, here's what happened. Doctors started coming in from all over the country. They heard about my practice, and they started coming in. I wind up having 15, 20 plus doctors a week in the way of me taking care. And of course, I'm growing this incredible team that's taking care of all these patients with me. It became clear that what God put on my heart was I need to actually create my own mentoring program so that I can really help these doctors be able to reproduce this wherever they are. That built what's called the waiting list practice. That became the largest international coaching program in the history of our profession. Amazing, right? And what happened as a result of that, and the reason why I share this with you is I want you to understand what you're about to hear today. That led to me building and leading the 2 largest franchises in our profession, creating those. So I have been involved in building multi-practice centers for several years now. And I know what that takes. I know what is needed to do that. This, though, what you're hearing today, it's blue ocean. How many of you have heard of blue ocean before, right? Like, I love what Jeremy said, like, to boldly go where no one has gone. Like, blue ocean is, it doesn't exist. Well, we're going to be able to actually have the finest doctors, and we're going to wind up having nurse practitioners, and we're going to wind up having the kind of peptide and IV therapy and postural alignment and the kind of therapies that help mind, body, soul are insane. What's all coming together has never happened before. And it's called Biolimitless Centers of Excellence. Who's up for that? Yeah. And I just heard on stage there's going to be 2,000 of those, and I'm the one that's supposed to open those. So really excited about that. Really excited to be responsible for 2,000 of those now. So, all right. How many of you know that you have to open 200 before you get to 2,000 though? Are you with me? That I can put my head around, and that's what I'm going to do. And how many of you know that we need to actually 20 open before we get to 200, right? So we're going to dial this down and get it right. And I appreciate what he said about, kind of working through the kinks and getting that all out. But the reason why it's worth it, for all of us, for you, for me, is, have you noticed people have reached a frustration level, like they're just so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're not really sure where do I go? Who do I talk to? What do I do? And you and I, on August 17th, 2024, we're launching the thing that is going to change all of that in America and around the world. I mean, it's just awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so proud to be part of this. What are people in desperate need of? I'll tell you, how many of you know that posture is the window to your spine and nerve system? How important is posture in your life? And I'll tell you, it is horrible out in the world. But that should tell you that's from the 3 T's: negative thoughts, toxins, and trauma. We need more posture and stress testing right now with everybody you know, more than you could possibly imagine. Maybe I didn't say this a moment ago, so please I want to make it clear to you. Why is stress, why did I even bring that up? Stress attacks your nerve system first. Did you know that? So we have stress. We all have stress. Those are the 3 different types of stress. Why is that so important? Well, stress attacks your nerve system first. Can anybody tell me, what does your nerve system control? That's why we have to get after this, so we can actually build a stronger next generation. You have to look at the rest of your life and realize that your nerve system, your immunity, that's a real thing, right? And it would have been true even if there wasn't a COVID, but that there was a COVID. And how many of you believe that there might be another one of those at some point, right? I don't want to be afraid of that. I don't want to be afraid of that for my wife and my daughters. We're not going to live in fear. How many of you know we just need to be so strong and fit that whatever comes, we're going to be okay, right? Like that's who we should be, right? As a family, as a nation. The genetic testing that Dr. Eric has been leading and has created for us, insane. I know you're going to learn a lot more about that, but the Biolimitless Centers of Excellence, they're going to have all of this right there for all the people in our communities. Functional blood testing, brain function testing. A gentleman that will coming up soon, a good friend, Patrick Porter. I mean, the work that he's done on planet Earth for 3 decades is insane. But how many of you know that there's an issue with mental health today? Right? And we see what's going on. We see people actually losing their memories, just losing their mind, not being able to even know who their children are and so forth. How many of you know that that's preventable? Right? So we can literally see the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, a huge shift in that. That's probably not going to come from mainstream though. It's got to come from somewhere else. So one of the taglines that Dr. Eric created was, we don't guess, we test. And so these centers are going to be so incredible. People will be able to see for the first time in their lives what's really the cause. What's literally the cause of what's maybe not working well for them right now. What is the reason why there's a dysfunction? Why is there a reason why there's maybe an issue with your range of motion, or an issue with a certain chemical pathway in your body? Strength, stamina, whatever it may be, we'll find that. I promise you, that's what we do. And then we create a solution for them that literally solves that problem. But it's even bigger than that because, see, Biolimitless Centers of Excellence, it's about how do we become the headquarters of wellness for life. How many of you get that something Jeremy said earlier was Pilsner's book, The Wellness Revolution? He only had 2 questions. The 2 questions were, who's going to define wellness? And the second question is, who's going to lead wellness? How many of you get that today, August 17th, as we launch Biolimitless Centers of Excellence, you and I get to define what wellness is for the world? Who's up for that? Who's up for that? Yeah. How cool would it be to have Pilsner in this room right now, having seen his vision and seeing us in this room? What are people desperately in need of? State-of-the-art products, services, technology to transform their physical, their chemical, their neuroemotional levels of well-being. The body cannot be separated, from mind and body. Have an issue in one, you have an issue in the other. Say yes if you know what I'm saying, right? So you have to understand how to look at the whole being to be able to care for the whole being. And that's where we're going, and this is incredible. So spine and nerve system correction, like the planet needs that more than ever because of the stress that we're dealing with. Leaky gut. Do you know how many people are dealing with leaky gut? Does anybody know that? Yeah, I mean, it's insane, right? It's just insane. 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 million people just in our country and growing. Neural pathways restoration, peptide reintegration. You're going to be learning more about peptide than you ever wanted to. And once again, kudos to Dr. Eric, who now has patents on multiple peptides that are coming out for planet Earth. Unbelievable. Mental health reinvigoration. This is exciting. This is really exciting. It's really cool to be in a space right now where really helping sick people get well is no longer guesswork. We really understand what it is in need. But Jeremy and Edward, who I hope you get a chance to hear from today, Eric and this whole team, they understood something else. Eric was talking about the fact that insurances, how many of you have known that insurances have changed over time? It's a moving target, right? So on my side, from a physician standpoint, here's what we know. And I bet you know this too. How many of you know that deductibles are higher than they've ever been? Insurance is covering less than they ever have, right? And so this is kind of what's happening. And here's the thing. We as physicians are totally at effect. Like we have no power there. And so just as soon as you figure out their game and you start doing it the way they are asking you, they change. And so for physicians, I'm telling you, I have great friends that are neurosurgeons, that are orthopedists, cardiologists. They're not wanting to play anymore. They're the best in the world, and they're just not wanting to play anymore in that space. Amen. Do you know how many MDs, do you know how many dentists are just going cash now because they just don't want to be in that space anymore? So Eric and I are talking about this several months ago, as he was even just considering me becoming the CEO of Biolimitless Centers of Excellence, which, by the way, I now am. So I'm proud to lead this thing. Thank you. So what we came up with, which is just mind-boggling to me, I don't pretend to understand this part of it. We just went and bought a bank. So we just bought a bank. And then what we did was we figured out, how do we create our own patient financing program? So when people come into a Biolimitless center, they can get what they need and they can pay for it at an affordable rate. So they either just pay because they're ready to pay for it, or they have a way to then take care of it from patient financing. So we can't prevent stress. We can't fix the soil. We can't fix the water, right? We can't do those things. That's not our prerogative, at least right now. But we can be the solution to help people thrive, to help people live an amazing life. And as a result of that, We can then put the supplements that they need in their bodies, right? So to heal the microbiome properly, to make sure they're mentally sharp, physically strong, that they have tremendous energy to do the things they need to do in their lives. Biolimitless Centers of Excellence is going to propagate. I want you to picture right now kind of looking over a map of planet Earth and just start seeing these lights, these little lights, and you're going to see them in cities all across the United States. Picture that. Can you see it? Say yes if you can see that, right? And then those of you, I met somebody over here from London. Let's give him a shout, coming all the way over from London. Yep. By the way, I want you to raise your hand if you're outside the United States. Canada. Yeah. Let's give those guys a huge round of applause. They're here from outside the United States. I love it. I love you. Thank you so much. By the time we get to Dubai, it's going to be insane. And I know there's a huge number of people, I think even watching right now in Tokyo, that are just saying we need Biolimitless centers like crazy all over Tokyo. We need them all over Europe. And that is where we're going. So welcome to the future. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. God bless.
Trying to cause a big sensation.